All right, hey, what's up, guys? Coach Mack, play fast football. Sorry for my voice being a little bit shot right now, but that's usually the way things work. Second game into the season, struggling a little bit right now. Currently 0-2, not playing really good football. A bunch of young kids that only returned 4 to 5 starters from last year's team, and those are really the only guys that have ever been in varsity football games and gotten reps in varsity football games. And, uh, I think everybody right now is kind of behind with the pandemic and the coronavirus. And I think what you're finding, though, is teams with returning starters and older players are in a much better position than teams with new players and new starters and not having a spring classic to kind of figure some things out, not having a kickoff classic to figure some things out. And so what's happening to us is we're figuring some things out live in games, and played two pretty good football teams. They're currently 5-0 right now. So one team's 3-0, the other team's 2-0. So I think we've played some pretty good football teams, but the things that we should have been working through in the spring, the summer, and the kickoff classic are now catching up to us. Schematically, what we can't do, things that we're struggling with, things that we did last year that were successful, for me, at least on the defensive side of the ball, that we're now struggling with the personnel that we have this year, trying to find the right personnel to get on the field. Those are all things that we're going through now, and we're going through in season when you really don't want to be going through them. So, we're going through some growing pains right now, but I wanted to do a video on something that I think is pretty interesting that has helped us in the first two games. And it's utilizing a 2-punter system. So our base system of punting is a shield punt. So it's a spread look, shield punt, try to get good splits up front with a guard and tackle, 3 big linemen in the shield in the back. And one of the reasons we use it, to be honest with you, is it takes less time to practice and prepare for things than the old-fashioned pro punt or spread punt, where you have a man side and a zone side, and guys got to kick back and be athletes and seal inside gaps first. And I think that takes a lot of work. And the shield punt is kind of, by nature, a little bit less time consuming, and it's a little bit more effective for the amount of reps and time that you get in practice. So it's one of the reasons we go to the shield punt. So, with 2 gunners out wide and only having guard tackle on each side, we haven't seen it yet this season, but where you get susceptible is a lot of people are going to try and send 4 people on the shield. And for us, and you can see, I'll take you through the shield stuff and where we struggle with some stuff. But, for us, we're not really a count team. We're not really a man team. We are a drop, crossover, run, redirect for 2 steps and get down the field. One of the reasons we use the shield on top of the time to prepare is it gets guys down the field quicker. So instead of retreating and setting and kick sliding backwards, we're drop, crossover, run, redirect for 2 steps and get down the field. And we turn everything inside to the shield, and then the operation of the snap, the kick, the time that it takes from the snap to the punter's foot is going to, eliminate the possibility of things going outside the shield. So when we do it right, with the right shield depth, the right punter depth, and the right operating time, when we get good snaps and the punter stays inside the shield, anything that goes wide can't get there. So, we use it for the simplicity of the scheme. I don't get overly exotic with the scheme. I know a lot of people spend more time with the shield stuff than we do, but we've only had 1 punt blocked, I think, in the last 4 or 5 years using the shield. So it's been effective for us, and it's allowed us to not have to spend as much time in practice teaching punt stuff. And when I had last year, when I had a group of returning players that had played for a while, I was able to spend more time on exotic shield formations and fakes. which this year I haven't been able to do yet because we're just trying to get punts off because of the new players, green players, raw players that we have. So I'll take you through some. First, I'm going to take you through the shield punt first, and then I'm going to get you to where we are with 2 punters in a rugby punting system. So, here we are, first game backed up in the shield. They choose to not come after it, which was probably good for us here. But really, essentially, we are supposed to be drop, crossover, run, block whatever's in your gap, drop, crossover, run, block whatever's in your gap, drop, crossover, run, drop, crossover, run, turn everything inside to the shield. And these guys are supposed to redirect for 2 steps. So when you drop, crossover, if you make contact with a player, you're supposed to redirect for 2 steps. All right, so you can see here, this is more kick slide than it is drop, crossover, run. So that should be drop, crossover, run, go through the chest of that defender for 2 steps. So it looks almost similar in nature to a stretch crotch scheme in an outside zone or a wide zone world. It's really almost stretch for an offensive lineman, and anything that shows, anything that goes under leave to the shield is really the easiest way I can get you to think about it. But you see here, this is more like shuffle, kick, slide. We want this to be drop, crossover, run through his chest, redirect for 2, and let's get down the field. All right, so to the top, the drop, crossover, run is not terrible by the tackle. See, that's not terrible. He's out there. That's in his gap. Here's a little bit of a hop as opposed to kind of drop, stretch. You see his inside foot. Watch his inside foot kind of hop and move. See his inside foot hop right there. So we'd like to eliminate that. But when he starts to widen, now redirect for 2 steps. 1, see, that's not even half of a redirect. So it's redirect for 2 steps. Drop. 1, 2. All right, should have been 1, 2, should have been longer, and now he can get down the field. Our center can free release and get through all the traffic, and we want our center to force the returner to the short side of the field, and then we're working gunners down the field as quickly as we can. Gunner to the bottom has to realize if you take that outside release, you better try to stack and get on top of that. All right, so again, not great, but not horrible backed up in our own end. All right, so here we are again, shield punt. So again, so you can see these guys, they should know by the look. So to me, this is a look where we should be almost free releasing. They've only got 4 players on the line. Only 2 of them or 3, they're not going to get 4 on the shield. So I should be drop, stretch, crossover, run, drop, stretch, crossover, run. Let him go to the shield. He's not blocking the punt. You can even let him go to the shield. This should be drop, crossover, run, drop, crossover, run. See, so instead of waiting, this should almost be like, again, think of it as an outside zone, wide zone stretch scheme. Drop, crossover, and attack through his chest. Redirect for 2, and let's get down the field. When you drop, crossover, run, if he goes inside to the A-gap, especially with such limited numbers, you should just run and release right now and get into coverage. Now, from the coverage part, what these guys have to understand is if either one of them screws up the drop, crossover, run, look what it does to their lanes. See, because the outside guy doesn't redirect for 2 steps, when he goes to get down the field, he's going to be standing right on top of the guard. So now what he's got to understand is if you've got him working down and he's going to try and work wide side of the field, as this guard starts to come down, this tackle probably needs to spread the field a little bit and give us some width across the board. One thing you try to tell special teams players is never run down the same. So see this right here? This is not good. All right. This should be sprinting here. This should be sprinting here. This should be wider. So if he's here, this needs to be wider there. Because you never want to run down. Look, we're running down the same path as a same color jersey. All right, so you can see, look, lanes. All right, and then this comes back to bite us later in the game. But as I look at this, looks to me like there's a lot of jogging. All right, long snapper. Don't turn around and look for the ball. Just run. Run. Let the returners tell you where the ball's going to be. Run. Look how wide the gunner to the top is. What play can you make on the football field up there? So again, early, week one, game one, no spring, no kickoff classic, not a lot of time to work it. Not pretty, not great, but decent enough that we didn't have anything blocked and they didn't field it, so we're able to get the field flipped inside the 20 a little bit. Am I happy with that? No. Am I, do we have to work on being better at that? 100%. Did it hurt us in that game? No. Okay, so here's later in that game, we go to the two-man. All right, so we go to the two-man rugby punt. So what we do here is we take a shield player out of the game. We line up in the same base generic punt formation. We take a shield player out and we put two punters in. So now when we do this with two punters back here, it's awfully hard for teams to figure out which way you're going to punt until the shield moves. So the two shield players line up, one on each side. All right, so two punters, one shield player on each side, balanced look. You don't know which way we're going to rugby, so it's awfully hard for you to set up where you want to send the block from. If I'm calling this live in a game and I'm waiting to see, I might wait to see where the pressure comes from and just make my call opposite that. So when we get this two punter system, now what we're going to do is we're going to line up with the two shield players, and then we're going to make our call right or left. And then once we make the call, the two shield players are going to shift to that side. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do the opposite. So we're going to work the front side inside. So the guard's going to work into the A gap. Tackle's going to work into the B gap. Now, the reason we do that is because, like I said, when you start becoming a shield punt team, the first thing that teams are going to do is they're going to go double A gap, two to each side of the center, and try and put four guys on the shield. So when they start doing that, by turning down the guard and tackle, you block the A gap pressure. You block the A gap pressure down. If there's two in the A gap and you get a piece of one of them, you block them both. So now we're going to take basically guard to the A, tackle to the B, all right, front side out to the edge, inside to the C gap, and we're going to take the punter that doesn't get the ball, and he's supposed to come up here and aggressively block anything coming from the backside. Biggest thing we have to work on is these two punters don't aggressively attack the backside. Okay, so we're going with our right call. He has to full speed sprint in this direction to cut off anything that might be coming. So you can see now we're rolling out, getting away from the pressure that might be coming in the middle, and we're going with our right side rugby punt. Now, the toughest thing with this for us when we're releasing guys inside is they then have to get back on track when they release because we're rolling the punter out to the right. So these rugby punts are probably going to end up on the right side. Okay, so there's the shift by the two shield players. Here comes the inside blocks. All right. Now, the backside, we usually don't change very much, so we let the backside, all right, depending on what we're seeing, all right, we'll let the backside either drop, crossover, run, and we'll put the other punter in the A gap, or if we think we're getting a ton of backside pressure, we will change this to where we work inside, punter off the back C gap. Now, again, what you see is we get some free releases here because they're not even rushing the punt. So now he knows he's not a factor, so he can free release. He's getting a decent release. Gunner's got to work up the field outside here. And then the toughest part is going to be when you work here comes the center. When these guys work inside, they have to find ways to get back into their lanes. And then the other toughest part for us is making sure that this kid knows that now there's only two people in the shield. After this protection here, he needs to work back to this half of the field to be a safety. So those are things you got to kind of work on air sometimes on Mondays or days where you're not going heavy. Get those two out there to block. Once they've made their block in the punt's gone, this kid has to redirect and kind of come back here because he's going to be the safety on that hash. Now, you may be asking why we rugby punted into the boundary. The right-footed punter is my field goal kicker who's never really live rugby punted for us in games. So in this game, at this point of the game, we were losing by a lot. And it wasn't a matter of the best case scenario for the punt. It was a matter of getting this kid a rep in a game and getting us to execute the right side call, the right side rugby call in a game, because the game was already out of the balance. We had already lost this game and we weren't coming back. This is in the second half and we're down 4 or 5 scores. So at this point, for me as a coach, and I've done this my whole career, when we get into situations like this and the game is no longer winnable, there's not enough time on the clock for us to come back, I'm now going to work on things, A, either that I want to see, or B, I want opponents to see. So now in this game, even though we can't win the game, I'm in the mode of there's 8 more games in the season. I need to get some things on film. This kid has never punted live rugby, so I wanted to get a right rugby punt, even though we're into the boundary. So typically speaking, depending on the rush, I would like to go rugby to the field. All right, just because by the time the punter rolls out, a lot of times if these guys shank this punt, it goes straight out of bounds. All right, so short side of the field is a little bit easier for us to cover, but you got to be careful rugbying into the boundary. By the time the punter gets out here, if he shanks it at all, it's going to be a 5 to 10 yard punt. So there are some pluses and minuses with punting into the boundary. So here's week 2. All right, this is the first possession of the game. We got the ball at midfield. It's about 4th and 11. We've got our 2 punter system in, and this time we're going to go with our left call. So you can see here, all right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys up front, 2 guys kind of stacked in the middle. I don't know if they're setting up a return or what they're trying to figure out. So we're going to go with our left punt. So there go the 2 shield players, shifting to the left. And now we're going to go inside. So inside A gap, inside B gap, center free release. And now we're going to get first off the edge. So that's perfect right here. First off the edge, first inside. Here's where we're lacking a little bit. This punter should be sprinting up through here to take any leaks in the A gap backside. If nothing shows, he can peel back and block this right here. Now, we don't feel like this guy's ever going to be in effect. We don't think he's ever going to get there to block the punt. Now, on the bottom, we're drop crossover run on the bottom. So I think this guy should be working out here. I think he should be, again, like stretch with an offensive tackle. Drop crossover run through that drop crossover run. See, and this reaction by players, is never good. So you come out here to block him and you don't. You turn back in to block him and you don't. And then you turn and look back. Once you've not blocked these 2 players, by looking back at the punter, they magically aren't going to stop rushing. So we need to understand when we do that, what we're trying to do for these guys so that we don't make contact. Well, shoot, you've already blown the blocking assignment. You might as well get down here and run. Okay, so what you're seeing here is a rugby punter that has done it before. So when he rolls out, he takes a look at the rush. So he looks and he sees that they're setting up a return. Nobody's rushing the punter. All right. We've got the first guy blocked there. They're chasing from the backside, so we could have got this blocked. This kid has some game savvy to him. So he pulls it. That is not a fake call, guys. That is not a sweep. That is not a – this is a kid that understands what we're trying to do. So you can see what they tried to do here. They tried to double the center, so the center can't be the first one down. All right? So when they do that and they're trying to set up returns and they're occupying blocks and they're doubling the center, they don't have – the guys that are responsible for making sure the ball's punted don't do the best job. And now we're off for a 30-yard or he runs 30 yards, but we're off for a 11 to get the first down and then another 7 or 8. So now we extend the drive and we got the ball on the 30-yard line. Okay, and again, this is not a fake. This is a two-punter rugby system. All right, this could be a right or a left call. This happens to be a left call. All right, and now see how they're kind of balanced, 4 in the middle, 2 coming off the edges, because they really can't tell where you're coming from or where you're punting from, the launch point of the punt when you have 2 punters. And then with the rugby deal, this is just another bonus to the rugby deal. Okay, and then later in the game, we're going to go with our right call. So now you can see the 2 shield players to the right, 2 punters here. All right, and now this should be inside A gap, inside B gap, first off the edge, C gap there, picking up and sprinting to get any leakage. So here's where the punter can become an issue. So now because we ran that first one for a first down, this kid is really doing a job to make sure we can't run the ball. All right, so we have got to do better getting a helmet on him. And we got to do a better job getting a helmet on that. And then here, we need to do a better job sprinting and securing any leakage from the backside. Because look what happens. He almost turns into the rugby punter. You don't ever want that punter to go flat, the offside punter. You don't ever want him to flatten out because he's going to run into the punter. You want him to sprint here and turn back for leakage. So now, again, what you're going to see is it's tougher for them to set that return up. We're not really getting any rush other than the front side, outside guys, which means our guys should be getting free releases down the field. So these 2 should be working inside gaps, but they realize there's nobody. He should have worked inside free release. He should have slammed him and then released. Because part of the reason you're in the shield and part of the reason you're working on rugby stuff is so that you get free releases. You don't have to block guys. Once we block them inside for half a second and we're sprinting out, we've already secured that. So we want to get releases. We're defeating the purpose of being shield or rugby by staying at the line of scrimmage so long is the point I'm trying to make. All right, so now we get good effort from the gunner. See, so week 2, this kid's learned his lesson a little bit. Last week when he was releasing outside, they were running him to the sideline. So now what he does this week, and we did a little bit of work in practice, which helps, but now what he does is he runs and he sets his release up, and now he brings it back under, and now we're where we want to. That's where we want to be as the gunner. We're stacked, and now we're running to make plays. Now up here, not so good. All right, so now we're running to make plays. They bobble. He gets a body on it and recovers a fumble. And again, this is all from the week before. The week before, he was way too wide, wasn't very effective. So now what he's learned is he's learned how to use his wide release into a throw by almost back under, right there like a receiver. Now stack and go right now. make him chase you. He's either got to chase you to clip you, or he's got to hope for a good return where you turn back into him and he can peel. All right, so hopefully you guys can kind of take a look at our base shield punt and then the two-punter look with rugby punts left, rugby punts right, how it helps take pressure off the shield punt from the middle, and then you could see the things we need to work on: effort, drop step crossover run, not getting a lot out of our drop step crossover run, redirect for two. If there's nothing in your gap, go ahead and get down the field, because that's why we're in the shield. So just some little things like that we have to talk about. But all in all, we got in this game with the rugby punt, we got a first down when the punter ran it, and then we got a turnover when they fumbled the rugby punt, and we recovered. So in this game, we were very effective with the rugby scheme. And hopefully what that does on film in the future is teams see the punter roll out and keep it for a first down. They got to be a little bit more cautious with how they want to rush punts. And then, and then because we've rugbyed right and left and we've missile punted from the shield, they've got to be a little bit more. The only one that you can really dictate the rush is when we are in the three-man shield. When we're in a three-man shield, you can, pretty much rest assured that we are going to be punting from the shield. So what we have to do with the shield is we've got to get funky with our formations, and we've got to go with some tackle over, some end over, some things that are going to kind of help give us a little bit better surface to potentially block the pressures that we're going to see from the shield look. And we've got to get a little bit more exotic so that, we're punting from the shield look, but because our formation and who's on the ball and who's off the ball is a little bit more, possibly exotic. With the three-man shield, there's not a lot you can do as far as who's on the ball because you need 7 on the line of scrimmage. So we've got to be a little bit more exotic with formations, tackle over, maybe moving the shield over and going tackle over to putting 4 players on one side and leaving just one player and a shield on the backside, and then building some fakes off of those things so that we can protect our shield punt. But I hope this helps you guys. I hope it gives you a look at a way to do things different. I love doing special teams. I love doing some different exotic things on special teams. I love showing them on film so people know that we'll do those things. I'm not adverse to taking chances on special teams because I think, especially in the punt game, when you do things that are a little bit funky or exotic and they get on film, you're going to slow the rush down. So you've got to understand what the end goal is. For us, the end goal is we don't want punts blocked. We need to get punts off. The easiest way to get punts off is obviously if you can use the 2-punter rugby system. All right, it's easier to get punts off and mix that in with the shield. But if you can be exotic with your formations and then an occasional fake here or there, once you get that on film, what you're doing is you're creating that mind game to say, hey, you never know what they're going to do. You never know what formations are coming next. They get a little bit passive in their punt block scenarios and they don't rush as much. And it's funny because the head coach of the team that beat us this past week is a good friend of mine, and it's first-year head coaching, and he's doing a really good job. They're 2-0 right now. And at our JV game on Thursday, we talked, and he said, man, I got to be sharp on special teams. I know you got something coming. And we really didn't. We didn't have any fakes in. We didn't have any onside in. We didn't have exotic formations in. We kept the rugby punter kept the ball for a first down, but that's more procedure than it is fake. But he was so worried about all the things that we were going to do on special teams because I've done them in the past, because I've been known to do them, that even though right now with my team I can't do those things, he doesn't know that, and he has to prepare for it. So, the longer you stay in coaching and the longer you play people that play you and that know you, your resume and your tactics build over time, and people then understand, hey, we better be careful. They're known to have exotic formations. They're known to fake punts. They're known to onside kick. So all those things build up when you can show different punt looks. Hopefully this 2-punter system helps you guys out. Hopefully your season's off to a little bit better start than ours if you are playing. If you're not playing, hopefully you can return to playing soon. Stay safe. Remember your mask. Wash your hands. Stay socially distant. And I appreciate everything you guys do for Play Fast Football, and I will see you next time.